Hi, I'm Jennifer Schomburg-Kanke, and this video is part of my series of videos about Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month and the Tupelo 30/30 project. And what I'll be doing today is telling you about the first 7 women that I'm writing poems about for 30/30, and also drawing my next 7 names. The project originally, the idea would be 1 poem a day honoring a woman who has had ovarian cancer, all taken from a Wikipedia list. So famous women. But if there is a non-celebrity that you think I should write about, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm open to also writing about non-celebrities as well. But you kind of get what you get in terms of my poetry. So it's not Hallmark, that's for sure. But so my original parameters were 10 minutes of research, 10 minutes in rhythming, and 10 minutes of writing. And what I discovered, one thing I already knew, which is 10 minutes of in rhythming is not enough for me. So at least the first poem, like the first few lines are in meter, and then it's like gets away from the dactyls pretty fast in that poem. 10 minutes is just, it's not enough to really get it in good. I may then adjust my parameters and do a little bit, give myself a little bit longer in rhythming time. But maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just say, okay, 10 minutes, that's fine. The 10-minute writing I have been able to stick to fairly well. There have been a few that have gone over like 12, like, you know, sort of finish up the sentence or whatever. The 10 minutes of research is not enough. It's not enough. That like I did 10 minutes of research on Kate O'Mara, who is the poem about her is up already on the Tupelo website. That link will be down in the comments. And, you know, 10 minutes to research and be like, oh, okay, she played the Ronnie on Doctor Who, so I'm familiar with her work, loving the boots and the, you know, the skin tight leather pants and things, looking good. And that, you know, just that little bit of like evilness. I mean, I guess the Ronnie was pretty evil. I mean, not just a little bit. That character was pretty hardcore. Anyway, she played the Ronnie. She also played Patsy's sister Jackie on Ab Fab, and she played Alexis's sister on Dynasty, and a couple other, like she was in some Hammer films. Just some really great stuff. And so, yeah, I could learn that amount in 10 minutes, but then I ended up watching a 20-minute YouTube video of a guy walking along like a rails to trail path by her home, which was like near where she lived. So I could see what was the landscape like where she lived, because I had found a quote where she talked about not being afraid to die, but that she would miss the countryside. And so I was like, well, what was the countryside like? What is the countryside like? So, you know, this is a 20-minute YouTube video. So I've kind of decided the 10-minute research, I'm letting myself be a little bit flexible on that, right? I am still not doing a lot of research. I'm not doing as much research as I eventually will want to do to make these poems the best that they can be. But that's Tupelo 30/30 project is about getting drafts done. It's not about making, you know, perfect products every day. It's about, you know, just getting you through, getting you to draft. And I definitely need these on these poems, because I don't know if it's coming across, but I do feel like I'm about ready to cry just talking about her. I've had students tell me before in class, when I used to teach, that when I get emotional about things, I just sound really sarcastic. And so I hope that's not what you're taking from my voice. So it would be like the last day of class and I'd be giving this like heartfelt speech, and they'd be like, are you making fun of us? I'm like, no, I'm just telling you what a great class you were. Like, it doesn't sound like that. So I apologize if I sound sarcastic. Not how I'm feeling. yeah, so she is the first poem, and Kate O'Mara's poem is already up. I hope that you do take a look at that. I always have to be very cautious to say Kate O'Mara, because there's a Kate Mara as well, who's a celebrity who that is not who it's about. It's about Kate O'Mara, who played the Ronnie on Doctor Who. Also the other 6 women that I did, and a little bit about them, so it'll entice you to go check out the poems as they're posted. They are not up yet as of this recording. This is Friday night on September 1st. But I have done the research, so I can at least let you know who the people are, which I didn't know when I drew the cards. So there will also be a poem up about Kora this week. She is a Polish rock star, and she is fascinating. She is just reinvented herself so many times. She was a punk rocker in the 70s, and then they kind of started, they were new wave through the 80s. She did a lot of commentary, like TV commentary, in like 90s, early aughts kind of stuff. And she eventually was a judge on a show called what is it called? Like All About the Music or something about that. And it's a Polish version of like an American Idol, The Voice sort of thing. And talk about the research. I was watching a lot of clips of her on the show, and they're all in Polish, and there's no translations, no English subtitles. But she looked like she was throwing some shade. She's just amazing transformations, and I think that one of the poems, I think the poem that I'm going to write, and actually I've already sent it in, so I think in the long term it is how the gist of the poem will stay. That she had a lot of abuse in her childhood. She was in an orphanage for a few years as a kid, that she was taken out of her family home, and there was abuse there. And then when she was back in her family home, she was abused by a priest. So when she was about 10, so she was no longer living in the orphanage, but she was still subject to abuse. And she has a song. She has a song about that. And so I think the poem, as it stands right now, is sort of a response to that. And I think that's probably how that poem will stay. Or at least somewhere. Anyway. So I guess that's a content advisory for the poem that's going to be up tomorrow, September 2nd. She had suicide attempts in her life. So she's an amazing, badass woman. So I hope that you enjoy my poem that is about her. Also this week we've got Julie Parrish, and Julie Parrish was in some Jerry Lewis films. I almost said Jerry Lee Lewis. No. Jerry Lewis films. Like she was in The Nutty Professor. She's on an episode of Murder, She Wrote. She was in an Elvis film. But if you are around my age, where you may know her best from is that on 90210, when the owner of the Peach Pit has a girlfriend and then gets married, that's Julie Parrish. So that is where we may know her from. She also went to school in her 40s and became a chemical dependencies counselor and just general counselor. And she worked for when she kind of didn't really do Hollywood as much when she got older, other than 90210 and a couple other things. But she was a counselor at a women's shelter, and she was also on like the LA board for domestic abuse. And so she did a lot of work protecting other women. So there's going to be a poem in the first 7 days of September about Julie Parrish. Also, Holly Dunn is also someone. She was a country music star in the 80s, and she was part of Grand Ole Opry. 2003, she kind of left the music scene and went out to Albuquerque and became a painter. I don't know why the inflection of my voice was like that. Again, that's like my like trying not to cry. My inflections just do all kinds of crazy shit. Maybe I should just let myself cry. Maybe it's better to just cry than to have that weird voice. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think, if you've made it this far. Yeah, she was Academy of Country Music's top new female vocalist in 1986, and she had some hits. Daddy's Hands, I think, was her biggest one. So yeah, she focused on art and just enjoying time with her wife out in Albuquerque. And so there'll be a poem about Holly Dunn this week as well, this 7 days. Because it's not like a week, right? Because the month is starting on Friday. We don't think of weeks going from Friday to Friday, but really a week can do whatever it wants. So that's what these are doing. Also a poem this week about the queen of the boogie woogie, Shizuko Kasagi. And again, another just phenomenally badass woman. She was a jazz singer in Japan in the 30s, and then in the late 30s and 40s, when war was happening and sort of social norms were changing, there was even the phrase in Japan, luxury is the enemy. And so everything about her was like, they banned her from being on stage. And then she was like, okay, I'll be in movies. And then they had to make a rule that was like, you can't be more than a certain distance from your microphone. Like if you're performing in a movie as a singer and you're dancing around doing your thing, you can't be more than, it was like 90 centimeters is the translation into metric. It's like, you got to stay by your microphone. And so you see her, like there's a Kurosawa film that she's in the late in like 1948. And so I think the rule was still in place for her even then. And like, you can see her dancing, and she's like, you can see her trying to keep like her legs in place, which her upper body's like getting it. So she was very popular doing boogie woogie style music in the 40s and the 50s, and people like imitated her, and then they became more famous than she was. It was wild. And one of her last roles was in the 80s. She was on a cleaner commercial, like a kitchen cleanser commercial, series of them, and so was very famous for that. And so in the comments on YouTube of videos of it, there are people like, wow, I had no idea she was a singer. All I knew her from was those commercials, and they're nostalgic and they're my childhood. Wow, she's a great singer as well. Let me tell you, I spent a lot of time with Google Translate over the last, during the research, lots of time with Google Translate. And also, if you go through Chrome, it will translate a Wikipedia page into English for you. And so I was able, because like yeah, Kora and Kasagi both have English Wikipedia pages, but they're super little and they say very, they don't really say much. But when you go to the Polish and the Japanese with their Wikipedia pages and you do the translation, it's not like the translations are rough. But it gives you at least a better idea and more information. I also, with Kora, I have a friend whose parents were Polish immigrants. And so my friend Anna is fluent in Polish. And so I was like, hey, I've run this through Google Translate. Am I understanding this correctly? And so she could help me through. So that was also nice to have. Anyway, so Shizuko Kasagi, poem coming up about her too. Alma Cogan is another poem, another person that there'll be a poem about. No crying. I'm not going to cry on this YouTube video. She was a singer. She did a lot. She's a British singer. She did a lot of versions of like American, like a lot of versions of like Doris Day songs and things. In the 50s and 60s. She did Beatles songs in the 60s because she hung out with John Lennon. And there's a lot of people out there who say that she was actually the great love of John Lennon's life, and that had she not passed away, he would have left Cynthia Lennon for her and not for Yoko Ono. One of the people that believes that is Cynthia Lennon. But then she has to like get a dig in the quote, because she's like, yeah, she had that, she was 8 years older, so she had that like anti energy that he was craving, and like, gotta get that dig in, huh? Okay. But she passed away very young at 34. And so there'll be a poem in her honor as well. And she was big in Sweden, because like when Britain was like, oh, we don't like that stuff anymore, we like the rock, Sweden kind of took her in, and they refer to her as a phrase that translates into like pop granny. So she was 34 when she died. She was 34 when she died, people. So sorry about kicking the thing. That's very unprofessional, but you've come to expect that from this YouTube channel. And if you're still watching this particular video, you probably know me. So thank you for watching. Okay, so the final person that there'll be a poem about this week will be Loretta Young. And Loretta Young was very famous. She had the Loretta Young Show, which ran from the early 50s to the early 60s. She got like 8 Emmys for that. She had an Academy Award. She got a Golden Globe. She was in movies with Cary Grant, Clark Gable, Lon Chaney. She just did all. She was just absolutely amazing. She was working in silent pictures by the time she was 2 years old. She was smoking by the time she was 8. So she was married by the time she was 17. She was annulled by the time she was 18. I think if I'm doing the math on the years right. And so there will also be a poem about Loretta Young coming this week. So I hope that I won't do individual videos for each poem. So I hope that you do go and check those out. And also I hope that you donate some money to Tupelo Press. That's the whole point of the 3030 project. There will be a link down below that will give you where you can donate to my particular fundraiser. That would be great. I'd love it. Okay. 7 more names, right, for the next week. Again, these are cards that I made based on information on Wikipedia. There is a list of women who've been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So people who have Wikipedia pages. There's no page for me. I'm not on their list. I'm not fancy enough yet. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna draw 7. 1. Taking whoever's on the back. 2. 3. This is exciting for you guys, isn't it? 4. 5. 6. And this is to keep me accountable, because otherwise I'm gonna, right, I would pick specific ones or I would avoid certain ones. So really the reason I'm doing this video is just to keep me accountable. So thank you for going on this journey with me. Let's see who we got. Who are our next 7? Because the only name I knew from this past week was Loretta Young. And now I feel like I know so much more about these people, and I love listening. Like 3 of them were musicians this week, and so I've just loved listening to their music. Like Alma Cogan has a version of Tennessee Waltz that's just like, she kind of 60 pops it up, and it's really fun to listen to. And it's really frustrating that they called her the girl with the giggle in her voice, because her voice is really deep, like not deep, but like it's really resonant. She has a very resonant voice, and it's very soulful. And really, you're going to focus on the giggle? Fuck you. Anyway, that's how I feel about that. That's what I got to say about that. Okay, so who are our 7 for the week? Heather Orridge. She played Louisa Von Trapp in Sound of Music. So sometimes when I was doing them, I did write little notes to myself, because I thought I was going to actually just like pick people, but I like this randomness better. It's better for me. Okay, Linda Smith. She was voted the wittiest living person in 2002. I look forward to getting to know more about Linda Smith. Dixie Lee. The name is familiar. I don't know though, and I didn't write any note to myself. Like I hold it up, you can't see it. Okay. Carol Channing. I recognize the name. And I feel like I associate like a very light colored wig and bright lipstick, but I could be thinking about a very different person. Wow, pulling out a lot of celebrity. Like, I mean, they're all celebrities, but like big. So Dinah Shore, also this week. Laura Nyro. I recognize that she's a singer, I think. Bess Meyerson. Sorry. All of the people in the first week of poems, the first 7, they all died of ovarian cancer. And so it's been a rough week. We have Bess Meyerson, a former Miss America. She died at the age of 90 of natural causes. I mean, ovarian cancer is technically a natural cause though too, right? How are we defining that? But anyway, she died at 90. And I'm looking forward to doing Bess Meyerson, let me tell you. Looking forward to doing hers now. And Ann Dunham, which is President Obama's mother. So those are the 7 coming up. I look forward to researching more information about those women so that I can write some poems during this Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month as I work through the Tupelo Press 3030 project. Thank you for listening, and thanks for stopping by.